It's good to have Roger back. We're going to have screenshots once again. Thank goodness. It's not good that we had to get Patrick up so early, but it's the last time.
Last time until. Oh, did you add me to the public thing?
No. No, I said
Ah, okay.
I'll worry about that later.
That
Last time
is an
until when?
excellent choice. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's not the last time.
Maybe not the
I
last
mean,
time
it is.
ever.
Yeah,
When are you coming over
that's a
across
fair
the
assessment.
ocean again? Anytime.
Actually, I'm going to do that for BlizzCon in November.
Oh, okay. I will be in San Francisco
Oh, really?
through horrible timing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're planning a sword and laser
That
event with the
is
Science Festival. And it was planned
darn
before they
it.
announced the BlizzCon dates, so
Okay, so okay, that's good to know actually because I was kind of assuming that you would be there and I could crash at your place.
oh, you probably still can because I'm only up in San Francisco for the time that the BlizzCon is actually happening. When you'll be down that end of the county and down in Orange County anyway.
Ah,
And then Eileen will be here. So
okay. But so you're not going to BlizzCon at all?
no, I won't be able to go to BlizzCon.
Ah, okay.
I know.
That's too bad.
Sad for me. It is too bad. I wanted to go. I wanted to go.
Mm.
But that's all right. We're gonna have
Is
fun. I just wish the two things weren't at the same time. That's all.
Yeah. So when is your San Francisco thing?
It's that Friday or Saturday. Sorry, I leave on Friday, so it's this Saturday.
Ah, okay.
Still have to nail that
That's
down
too bad.
with Belmont. This is gonna
You should tell
be
them.
a
Don't you
real
know it's BlizzCon?
right. Well, no, that's the problem. We didn't. Like this was all planned and settled, and then BlizzCon came out, and I'm like, when does BlizzCon ever happen on the same date 2 years in a row? Right? Oh, you guys. Where's BlizzCon being held? It's being
uh,
held in exactly the same place it always is being held at the Anaheim Convention Center, right by Disneyland.
and no, it's not later start time for DTNS for not Patrick.
Oh, is DiamondClub.tv didn't pick up our video for some reason. We're live though.
Oh, that's why they're asking.
Yeah, I think that's why. NW Scottus is very nice to give the video link. Okay, well let's get going. Ready?
I was born ready.
That was the sleepiest born ready I've heard you do.
Yeah, I know.
Here we
I
go.
didn't say I was born awake. I said I was born
Yeah.
ready.
Money burning a hole in your pocket? Then your money's probably on fire. Seek medical attention. If you want to support your favorite podcast, however, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, June 7th, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, early in the morning in Japan, Mr. Patrick Beja. Thank you for getting up early one last time before you head back to Europe.
Yeah, it's the 5:30 here, and I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to be entirely awake during the show. But yeah, it is the last time, and it's a very bittersweet feeling. I'm happy to be going home, but sad to be leaving. I'm sure many people know that feeling.
Sure, sure. I've had that feeling before too. And you've been there quite a bit longer than I've ever stayed outside of my home. When do you actually leave? When do you head back?
A couple of days on the 10th, and
Hmm.
I so it will have been about 2 months and 10 days, so that's a hefty chunk of time. But I'm going back to cover E3, and I realize that it's the most horrible timing because actually the jet lag is going to be the worst possible way, and I'm gonna be super
But no,
tired
it's
and
perfect.
sleepy.
You'll be all of the WWDC and E3. It will just distract you so much. You'll be so jazzed
Right.
by all the great announcements. You won't even
That I
care.
won't remember I'm sleepy. That's an
Exactly.
excellent plan.
All right, we're going to talk about foldable screens, bendable screens. They've been promised for years, but it looks like we might actually see some within the next year. We'll tell you about that and more after the headlines. Snapchat is redesigning its Discover section. That's the one that has major publishers like Vox and Vogue and other publications that don't begin with V that create their own little feeds of videos. They're going to let publishers include an image and a headline in the Discover section. And now live stories, those curated stories from the public, are going to live next to the Discover selections on both the stories and Discover page. So they're going to mix those up a little bit, since it seems like everybody just looks at the live stories, not the publisher pages. Publishers also get a subscribe function by tapping and holding during a story, and that will add it to your list of My Stories underneath all your friends. So you'll see all your friends first, and then it'll take you into whatever publication you have subscribed to. Snapchat's just becoming functional, it seems like, and trying to chase those ad dollars from the publishers.
Yeah, it seems they're trying to get public stuff more in front of everyone's eyes. I'm wondering if we're reaching the point where Snapchat is getting so mainstream that the kids are gonna get away from it and find something else that is
I keep
incredibly
waiting
obscure and weird.
because Snapchat was a reaction to Facebook, Twitter, etc., where everything was saved forever, right? Snapchat arose because there was the problem of, oh, I have to go delete photos from my Facebook profile because I interviewed for a job. So this was a way to safely share stuff that went away, and then it grew, and it still has that root of ephemerality, but it's become something else. What is that next wave? That is really interesting to me. Like, is it? I don't think it's Yik Yak. I think Yik Yak has its own temporal nature of localized conversation, but I'm waiting to hear what that next reaction will be.
I'm wondering how much of the draw of Snapchat was also the fact that it was just different and weird, and it was just at the beginning, at least, it was just the kids that understood it. Even
yeah. Oh, I think that's part of it too. It just has to be different. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it needs to be something even weirder and more different. Send your suggestions at feedback@dailytech.
VR. It'll be V Snapbook.
All right, let's move on. Oh, or not. Let's talk about VR. The HTC Vive is back in stock, hooray! And shipping within 3 business days of orders in 24 countries. Pre-orders made through retailers are being fulfilled this week as well. Starting in June, the Vive will be available for demos in Microsoft stores, GameStop, Micro Center, and elsewhere.
So remember, they put the pause on the orders there. But it seems like they're caught up. All the pre-orders should be fulfilled by the end of the week. They've already fulfilled all their own direct pre-orders, and they're just doing the ones that were through retail. And then they're going to start showing it off to people. I mean, I think it's too early to declare any of these headsets the winner by any stretch, but HTC Vive is definitely leading the pack. It's the one I hear people talking about the most. It's the one in the most people's hands so far, which is interesting because it is definitely the second mover here.
It is. And the other surprising thing is that it seems that people, this is completely anecdotal, I think, as anything of that nature, but people are saying that room scale VR is where it's at. This is where it really makes sense to have this kind of experience. It makes me a little bit worried, though, because I'm not sure how usable that's going to be for most real and a dedicated room in every home. So that's a little bit farther off. And
yeah, man, I have to say, now having been able to try both in my own home, the Vive definitely has the better experience for me. But the Oculus was so much easier to sit down and use because I didn't have to have this whole room size space. So it's both a blessing and a curse, I think. While Lenovo said it will not come out with a new Razr, it is going to announce new products on Thursday, June 9th. So very sad about the Razr, but we'll find out what they're going to give. In fact, one of the things they're going to announce is involving VR. Chipmaker Movidius issued a press release today that it will provide Myriad 2 chips to be used in a series of AR and VR products from Lenovo. The Myriad 2 is used for computer vision in the DJI Phantom 4, if you're wondering where you heard that name before. That quadcopter uses it for collision avoidance and some other things. It could also be used for positional tracking without external sensors, which no self-contained headset or mobile type headset has yet. First of the series is a dedicated mobile VR device set to debut in the second half of 2016. Again, these aren't leaks. Movidius just came out with their press release saying, hey, we're doing this for these products for Lenovo. You'll find out more on Thursday, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm wondering why they wouldn't do a Razr. Every time anyone buys Motorola, I think they should do a Razr.
And that video where they showed like the Razr was amazing, and we're bringing back that spirit. Yeah. It's like, but then you have to bring out a Razr if you play that card. I'm sorry, even if it's just some dumb like bendable smartphone, and we'll talk about some of those. Like, it has to be like, you can't do that. You can't tease us with a Razr and then be like, oh no, we're not doing a Razr. That was just to get you talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, this is how unexciting someone new getting into the VR space has become, because everyone's doing it, that we're just talking about the Razr and not the VR thing for them. But
yeah.
Twitter now. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, after you, sir.
So Twitter announced a redesigned Android app with no new functionality, but using Google's material design look. Tabs replace buttons for timelines, moments, notifications, and messages. A floating action button is back for composing your tweets. Other menu items like settings are in a menu accessed by tapping the profile icon.
Yeah, I found the Twitter app on Android to be a little clunky. So these are some nice tweaks. I'm not one of those fans of the material design who gets super excited, but I know those people are out there, so they'll be happy too. I'm actually glad to see them just clean up the interface a little rather than actually shove a bunch of new features in at the same time, to be honest.
And, going to material design it's going to look nicer on your phone too, so.
The proposed Electronic Communications Privacy Act mandates a warrant for the government to access email on online data. You might think that's a really good thing. Maybe you don't. But it has been passed by the House in the United States and is pending in the Senate. So there is now a proposed amendment. This amendment goes the other direction. The proposed amendment would allow the FBI to access electronic communication transactional records, something you might hear called ECTRs, with a national security letter. Remember, the national security letter doesn't require a warrant. So the bill, just to be clear, that says you're going to need a warrant to get email and online data might have an amendment that says, well, unless it's ECTR, then you could just do a national security letter. ECTR includes things like your domain names visited. It won't give you the full URL of actual pages, but it will say what domain names you visited. Email metadata, IP addresses, and therefore because of IP addresses, you can do some geolocation. So a letter was written today by the ECTR Coalition that includes, among others, Facebook, Google, Yahoo, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, arguing that ECTR could be used to deduce personal information about people. Things like medical problems and whatnot are not far-fetched to deduce from this sort of information. And they make the case that the FBI in the past has abused its national security letter authority, and therefore they shouldn't be given added authority. They're referring to a 2007 audit by the Office of the Inspector General that found the FBI collected information not permitted under the NSL authority, and then used stored information in cases not relevant to the original investigation that the NSL was drafted for. The amendment is being voted on by the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee on Thursday. If it passes there, then it will go into consideration with the rest of the Electronic Communications Privacy Act.
What's really interesting is that it feels that these topics are being seriously debated at this point. It's not, I think, just a couple of years ago, or maybe 3 years ago. When did Snowden get the things out? So before that, that wouldn't even have grabbed anyone but the hacker media's attention. So overall, that's probably a good thing.
And Senator Ron Wyden has come out in opposition of this amendment. I have to say, I don't have a problem with ECTR being used with a warrant. I do find these national security letters to be a little fast and loose. There are more bits of accountability on them than people think, but I'm pretty sure they should be limited in use, and they're used in the tens of thousands. So, yeah, like you say, Patrick, it is part of a broader debate about what is actually necessary. And I think when you have the House and Senate saying, you know what, we need to rein things in, you shouldn't be surprised to see a certain group push to open it back up a little if they can. So
yeah,
I'm not shocked about that.
Since that was the point of the whole thing, and it's like, yeah, we need. And I think, not to go back into the whole conversation, but I think the national security letters are, as an idea, something that I don't think most people would be opposed to in principle. But the real problem is every time you get those kinds of mechanisms in place, then you also open a room for abuse. And I think in the case of the national security letters, most people would agree that they have been abused. So the fact that they're trying to squeeze them into this as well is at least, I think, a concern, and people should look into it.
I think what I might be comfortable with personally is you create a new piece of legislation around national security letters that gives them better oversight and auditing and prevention against being used for the wrong reason, and then you put this amendment in, but don't put it in the other one. I don't think it belongs there.
Yeah, there you go. Tom Merritt fixing America's legislative
Right.
issues one at a time. Ben Bajarin?
Beharin, I think.
Beharin. Let's go with Beharin. Ben Beharin, writing on TechPinions and Recode, describes 2 studies he helped conduct about voice interfaces. Among the findings, the Amazon Echo is used mostly in the kitchen and the living room, while Siri and Google are mostly used in the car and at home. The top 3 use cases for the Echo were music, lights, and timer, while the top uses for Siri and Google was search. Siri is the most used voice interface on mobile, and respondents generally said they would use voice interfaces more often if they worked better and recognized natural language more.
Yeah, so the upshot of Beharin's piece here is we actually are using these things. We like them, and they're not even optimal yet. It's not just early adopters who are using them. The study on the Amazon Echo was with early adopters, but the study that looked at Siri and Google use was with mainstream users. And we like them. We just want them to work better. We want them to do more than just search. The reason search is the top use is because that tends to be what you end up defaulting to when you ask something, because there's not as many other things that it can do yet. Whereas the Amazon Echo, with all of its skills, etc., can do more. Cortana can do more. So I think we're going to continue to see these things improve. And that's where Beharin says this is going to become the dominant interface down the road because people are hungry for it. They want to use it.
I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say it's certain, but there would be a lot of opportunity. We keep talking about virtual assistants and AI being the next interface after, touch and mouse and keyboard, and it could possibly be a third one, maybe even a dominant one. I think for me, the thing that is sort of holding me back is that it feels like it doesn't feel natural yet. That's what he's saying, and it's a pretty obvious thing. But I was thinking about this, and I'm not going to say the words, but when you have to sort of raise your voice and think, I'm addressing that thing in the room, then it feels weird, even when you're alone. But if you can just say something to it like you would be talking to a friend that is in that same room and not have to sort of transform your speech, I think at that point it becomes incredibly useful.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I've definitely found myself getting a little testy when I had to repeat something add chocolate chips to shopping list, and then it responds as like, okay, I've added chocolate chips to your shopping list in its normal tone, and I'm like, thank you. Like I just involuntarily like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry I got mad at you.
Yeah, I mean,
and yeah, you want those interactions to feel more natural so that you don't have to think about like, how do I phrase this?
Yeah. And even, even the volume of the voice, I think you even when you don't need to do it, there's a point at which you stop yourself and you change your speech pattern and you're saying, imagine if you could just say like I say if I could just say in the room like, hey dude, can you tell me what time it is, or and that's not the way you address those virtual assistants yet. And I'm saying, hey, dude, because I'm young and hip, right? But I'm just trying to avoid saying the specific words. But at the point where that's how you speak to it, yes, that I can absolutely see it becoming much more useful.
Yeah, I mean, just this morning, because I use my Amazon Echo mostly for shopping list. That is my primary use for it. And I was like, okay, add lettuce to shopping list, add carrots to shopping list. I'm like, why can't I just say add carrots, lettuce, and list it off? It doesn't. It just, it will do that, but it'll make it one block entry on the shopping list. So I think Beharan's right. We have a way to go. They need to be improved, but they are improving, and people do seem to like being able to use it. Of course, that big story that's going around today of the woman in Cairns, Australia, who dropped her phone while racing to her sick child who stopped breathing. But because she calls her husband, who's in the Navy, regularly while putting kids to bed and knew how to use the hands-free, had the presence of mind to just say, hey, to the phone, call 911, or what? It's not 911 in Australia, but call emergency services, and emergency services were able to come. So, I mean, yeah, could she have reached down and picked up the phone and found the dial? Sure, but when seconds count, that was one less thing she had to think about. And those kind of situations certainly aren't common, at least hopefully not. But it does show that this is starting to permeate how we live and work, because that was an emergency situation. She wasn't planning out every move. That was just the first impulse for her was to like, oh, I'll just talk to it because I dropped it.
And completely unrelated, I'm sure there are many reasons for this, but why isn't it 911 in every country? Just let's make it easier. We'll know it. We'll watch movies. We'll, see what you're laughing, but it's
I'm
true.
all for it. I agree. That's one of the, I don't like to push the American hegemony necessarily when it doesn't need to happen. But this is one case where I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good system there.
Yeah, I'd get behind it.
Yeah. Hey man, it was the Frenchman who said it this time. Living in Japan, not me. Ignite Protect wants to provide selective encryption and control over data residency and retention for both your locally stored data and your cloud stored data. So it doesn't matter where it is, they will analyze it. Software as a service analyzes documents and file activity to decide whether or not to allow action. So for instance, you can be programmed. You can set it up to say like, be careful with social security numbers. So if it sees a file that has a social security number, and it's being shared outside the company, let's say, it stops it. It says, no, you're not supposed to do that. Ignite says it can detect malicious behavior like ransomware and stop it before it starts encrypting drives. Ignite Protect, however, will only be available to enterprises, and there's no freemium version here. It's just a paid product, a revolutionary new business model from Ignite.
That's what you can do when you target enterprises, I think.
You're right.
So this is basically AI for file management, and
I think they're setting it up to have some machine learning. I'm not sure how much actual machine learning they can claim, but it's data analytics for sure.
That's interesting. It's getting everywhere.
Yeah.
Bloomberg reports its sources say Samsung is considering introducing 2 new smartphone models with bendable OLED screens. One model would fold in half like a cosmetic compact. The other would have a 5-inch screen that could unfurl into a display as large as 8 inches. The devices are supposedly part of and could be announced as early as February 2017 at Mobile World Congress.
So we've been hearing about Project Valley for a long time, but Bloomberg has a pretty good record with this sort of thing, and I would expect this. The one thing that surprised me about it was they said that this would not be Sam. Again, and that is something we had heard is Galaxy X would be the next thing after the S, and it might have bendable, foldable screens in it. I would think it'd be interesting if they came out with a new line, but it looks like we are finally, Patrick, finally going to end up in the land or valley, I guess, in this case, of roll-up screens that I back in the CNET Buzz Out Loud days, I was saying, yeah, I want a screen that just snaps in like a window shade into my phone, and then I can just pull it out as long as I want.
Well, are we finally there though? Are we? Let's discuss a little.
Yes, let's discuss before we do stories in our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Anybody can go and submit a story. And if you don't have time to submit a link, vote on the others. There are lots of people submitting. 6,230 of you are in there voting and submitted. Be one of them. I know it's a primary election day in many states in the United States, so you've already done some voting possibly. Do some more. DailyTechNewsShow.reddit.com. Thanks to Yaniv05, Drakenduria, PC Guy 8088, Dan Linder, Steve IO, and more for submitting their stories. And that is a look at the top stories. So, bendable foldable screens. Okay, you sound skeptical that this will actually happen, but I present to you, Patrick, the evidence. Samsung did show off a rollable 5.7-inch display at SID Display Week back in May. SlashGear still has the video up. You can take a look at it. It was a 1080 by 1920 screen, 386 ppi. I get it. Not OLED. Didn't have the touch sensors. Didn't have any protection to it. But that's what they're showing off in public. They've probably got something better behind the scenes that maybe by 2017 they could show off, and maybe by the end of 2017 be able to put into production. There's also loads of other people. LG had a prototype 18-inch rollable screen at CES this year. Even as far back as a couple of years ago, Sony and Sharp were showing off bendable, rollable screens. There's even a flip phone already in China from Samsung called the SMW 2016, which is bendable. It's got two AMOLED screens, so the screen isn't bendable, but they already have the form factor. They just need to make that one screen, and then it could be something that starts off as, 2-3-inch Super AMOLED screens, but then folds out into a 6-inch one.
So I think the technology seems to be almost there, but there are a couple of things. First of all, there's this time in technology where it looks like it's going to be here in a few months, or maybe a year, maybe two, but then it takes 5. And that's the first general observation of technology in general, but also what we've been seeing with these prototypes that have been demoed for years that are incredible already. There is, I think, especially in the resolution and the PPI is pretty amazing, and I don't think I would have expected them to be that advanced already. But they still have the bulky electronics part at the edge, and they still have, how bendable are they? Can you actually fold it in two? And isn't the crease going to be an issue in the middle? And these kinds of. So on the technology side, I'm not sure we're quite where we want to be for these kinds of products yet. And the other thing that is not a concern but gives me a little bit of pause is the reports that they're not going to be top-end products that are going to be, the top-line products for Samsung. It feels like they might be this weird little side thing for a little while yet, and not be our fantasies at this point. They're exploring the space still.
I first heard about rollable bendable screens in the mid-2000s, so I'm going to argue that we've been through that. It's coming soon, but it actually took 5 years. And that this feels like the right time. We're like, okay, we'll finally get a product. But you bring up a very good second point there, that Samsung seems to be wanting to test the waters with some cutting-edge models and be like, these aren't Galaxies. These are we're just going to put these out here and see what the early adopters think of them. In which case, you may be right. We're still a couple of 3 years out from that hitting any kind of mainstream use.
And
but
also,
that, I think, brings up... Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Also, I'm not saying we're not going to see the products. I think we're there. I'm just saying I'm not sure it's the products that you want them to be, right?
Not
The
yet.
fantasy.
Yeah. Do we want them though? What is that product that we want? I think I want this because it looks really cool in that 2014 video from they showed the guy at the coffee shop who just folded up his phone and put it in his pocket, and then the next guy that came down just had a little thin bar that he like pulled it out again like a window shade, and it was like, whoa, look at that, you got an 8-inch screen there. That sounds cool. Let's say they could actually do that. Is that really useful? Is that really what, like, do we need that? Is it just because, oh, I can keep a tablet in my coat pocket, right? I still think so, but I also doubt my own self on that one.
I think that is I would say that's the product we want. I think there is some clearly a use for tablets on the market, but it's sort of hampered by the fact that it's a separate device and that you don't always have it on you and all of this. And I think if we have, let's not even go to the crazy town type of technology where you can actually roll out the thing from a tiny, I don't know, a tiny cylinder that rolls into an 18-inch screen. I think that is a little bit too optimistic at this point. But already, that is standard phone size, that even if it's a little bit thicker, if it can unfold into 2 or 3 panes that make it into a full-sized tablet, I think there's a real use case for it. Maybe it's because I'm using my tablet a lot. Do you use a tablet on a regular basis?
I do. I have an Nexus 9 that I use every morning for looking over the news and stuff. And obviously I have an iPad Pro that I use here for music stuff, and I use it for prompter as well.
All right, so let me ask you the question the other way around. Why would you not want a phone that unfolds into a tablet?
The only thing I can think of, and I think you've addressed this already, is in that little one where it's like, oh, it's a little bar and then I pull it out to get the screen. I don't want to have to pull it out on the go to get the screen. It's going to be floppy. I want to be able to pull something out and access it right away, right? In which case, your other idea, which kind of steps it back a little bit from that, is the better one, where, wow, I could have a 4-inch phone, which is much easier to grab out of my pocket, easier for me to handle with one hand while I'm running through the airport. But then when I sit down on the plane, suddenly I just unfold it and it's a 6-inch phone. Or if I want to watch a movie, unfold it one more time and it's an 8-inch tablet. Like, that kind of form factor I think would be incredibly useful.
All right, so then let me ask you this. I'm trying to be not Mr. Negativity here, but let's look at the other side of everything.
Sure.
In theory, again, it works perfectly. You unfold it, the screen is beautiful, and you just, you have a tablet where you had none. But in reality, what if there's this crease in the middle because the screen is folded, and I don't really see how you can not have a crease. Again, in theory, it's kind of possible already to create a device that would have 2 screens with a very minimal separation in the middle that could unfold and become a bigger screen. So I think technologically it's almost possible to have these kinds of devices, yet it's not that we see some but they're not taking off. No one is using these kinds of things.
I don't think they'll have creases. I really don't. Really? I think that they will be thick enough that a crease won't form. And that's got to be one of the things that they're testing for, is to be like, we have to make sure that this thing doesn't end up having a crease, at least in the first year of use. I totally just being Pollyanna optimistic there when I say that, but I feel like that's possible.
Okay, so you would want a, let's say, double the thickness phone so that you can unfold it into.
Well, that is a good question. Would it have to actually end up being quite a bit thicker? Would it be heavier? I feel like no. I feel like if they're doing this right, they'll be able to have the thickness be just the thickness needed for the components, for the chips, and we can get some pretty powerful stuff in a small form factor there. And which case, the screen I don't think adds that much thickness to it, even when you fold it up a couple times.
Right. The prototypes we've seen, at least, have some amount of electronics at some point connected to the screen, but definitely the screens themselves are incredibly thin. So I could see this happening. Maybe you want that back of the screen to have a little bit of rigidity, so you're going to add some kind of plastic or aluminum or something.
Right. And some protection too. Yeah. And the
exactly.
touch sensors and everything.
But it could be relatively thin. So use cases, are we just looking at a phone that doubles the screen real estate and that's it, or do we have other crazy uses?
Yeah, man. Email us if you can think of others, because for me, being able to adapt the screen size to my needs is paramount. To me, then I don't have to have both a tablet and a phone, and I can get rid of a few form factors because I can put them all in one. But what are we missing? What other things would that allow you to do? Give us an email, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. I get our pick of the day from Ian in sunny San Diego today. He says this one's for Tom and all the other Google Music fans out there. If you're tired of loading up Google Music in a web browser and hitting your media keys F7, F8, F9 to no avail, Radiant Player is an open source desktop app for OS X that provides rock solid media key support and a mini player in your taskbar. In Google Chrome, I would always have CPU and or memory issues with leaving Google Music running in a tab, but Radiant seems to manage those resources better as well. If you're a MacBook user and Google Music lover, definitely want to get Radiant Player. It's on GitHub, and we'll have the link in the show notes, player.github.io.
I don't understand why people wouldn't want to use iTunes. What's the problem? I don't see it.
I mean, yeah, you've got plenty of RAM and CPU. Like, why not just have that thing launched all the time? Send your picks to us, folks. Feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. A few emails to get to today. Scott loved hearing our discussion with Veronica yesterday about passwords. Scott says, I have fairly strong passwords myself, but I feel the strength of the password almost doesn't matter with two-factor authentication enabled. Does it really matter if my password is if I have 2FA turned on? I'd rather have a weak password and two-factor authentication than a very strong password and no two-factor authentication.
That is not untrue. However, why do you have to choose? I mean, obviously, I think is ridiculously simple, but you could have a slightly more complex password and 2FA. So
yeah, I feel the same way for myself, but I've heard very compelling arguments from people who are like, look, I'm trying to get people who won't stop using the same password everywhere to do something more secure. And if I can say, look, all right, fine, just use a word with some numbers in it instead of vowels. It can be a short word. Just use a different one every time. But as long as you have two-factor authentication, then I can see that argument. I can see that side of the argument in implementation. Because, yeah, if you have two-factor authentication, the password strength isn't as much of a problem. But on the other hand, the whole reason to have two-factor authentication is that there are two factors. So I personally would like to make both those factors as strong as possible, just in case, just being paranoid.
But I agree that if you have to choose one, I would rather have 2FA than a strong password. If you have to choose between the two and you can only have one, then yes, 2FA.
If you're dealing with someone who's like, I can't remember all these passwords, I don't want to use a password manager, then yeah, maybe. Just make sure that two-factor authentication works well. Not all two-factor authentications work the way they are supposed to. So that's part of it as well.
Do you have to make it more complicated every time, Tom? It's fine.
Not me. It's just reality, Patrick. William wrote to point out that most password security software is difficult or impossible to use if you're blind. Speaking of making things more difficult, LastPass icons, for instance, the LastPass edit boxes, neither one are usable by screen readers. Google Authenticator, Authy, even Squirrel are all requiring vision to take a picture or a line of code or something like that. He's like, yeah, you can do two-factor authentication with text, which is better, but that can be a problem when your whole number is 836 836710, and your screen reader reads it out 836,710. You try to remember that whole number, and then by the time you go to enter it, your time-sensitive code is expired, and you got to go get another code. William says, I want to protect my accounts, but until someone builds an accessible desktop and mobile app, I'm stuck. Please don't forget or ignore what might seem like a small group.
Yeah, that is actually something really interesting. I think it would be really cool to have an accessible app for that.
Yeah, and it's important, just because someone has visual impairment or is deaf, there should not be no security option for them. And he had a lot more to say on this. If you're interested, we'll have his full email in the show notes. Finally, Ron says, would you consider a pre-show warning like the following program contains audio that will activate your voice-controlled devices? Pay my mortgage. Thanks a lot, Belmont. Here's my question. Which devices could be updated so they only respond to the owner's voice? Didn't an HTC smartphone have that feature a while back? Wasn't thrilled about the Echo. Don't care to listen to clock radio quality speakers, but purchased a Dot, connected it to a good set of speakers, and I love it. However, watching DTNS is a pain unless I mute the Dot's mic. So what would happen if I get the Dot to play DTNS and the content the Dot is playing says the wake word?
So that actually happens on several occasions. One of the most memorable ones was a Microsoft press conference that you could watch on your Xbox One, where they said the deactivate words a couple of times
And turned everybody's Xboxes off.
Which everybody who was watching the press conference got. So yeah, that does happen. However, I know that Siri actually has that feature already. It's supposed to, you can, I believe, I can't remember if it's an option, but it's definitely possible to train it to recognize your voice specifically. I can't remember if it's active by default, and you have to train it every time you want to activate the, hands-free thing for the phone when it's connected to the power outlet, or even not anymore when it's the S version.
It's the 6S. That's the one the lady used with her baby, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it works with your voice specifically. That's the way it's supposed to work now.
Well, Byron has another solution for it. He said, how cool would it be if after your voice activation command, you could have a setting that requires the device to hear a authorization phrase. So you say the trigger word, then authorization Picard Omega 4 before the command would actually go through. That way, all of us mentioning the trigger words wouldn't have to avoid them because we don't know the individual extra phrase that goes with everybody's device.
Or maybe even easier, you can design your own activation phrase. So if you want it to be just, before you issue a command, you want it to activate when you say authorization Picard Omega 4, then that could work.
And then your Amazon Echo explodes because that was actually the override for the self-destruct. Got to be careful of that too. All right. That is it for this episode of Daily Tech News Show. Thank you so much, Patrick Beja. You've been such a trooper during your travels. I really appreciate you making the effort to get up early and figure out bandwidth and all of that. So huge thanks on behalf of the entire audience. It's going to be great to have you back in the regular swing of things soon as well. But you haven't stopped your other shows either, have you?
No, I haven't. We're still doing everything. Everything's going strong at FrenchSpin.com and FrenchSpin.fr. We have all the regular shows. I guess today I'll take this opportunity to talk about Overwatchers. I know the game Overwatch has been very popular since launch in the last couple of weeks, and we do a show specifically about that game. So if you're interested, just go check it out on amove.tv, and the show's name is Overwatchers again. So I think you might enjoy it.
Out. Thank you to everybody who supports the show. We do this show entirely based on your support. If you're supporting the show, thank you. If you're not yet supporting the show, and you can, and you like the show, you get some value out of the show, and you're willing to help us continue to do it, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support and find out how. The best way is our Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/DTNS directly if you want to support us on an ongoing basis. We would love to have you in the tent, and we have some cool stuff like the treasure chest and a Slack channel to thank you for the extra support. Our email is feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. That's 593-2459. Catch the show live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and at diamondclub.tv. And visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Lamar Wilson. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Boom.
I know. Laptops with foldable screens that make bigger screens when you open the laptop.
Wait a minute. So you could have the 13-inch screen when you're on the airplane. And then you could have the 15-inch screen, just pull it out a little more when you're at the kitchen table. And then you want to watch a movie in the hotel room, you could bring it to the 20-inch screen. Is that what you're saying?
Basically. Although if the screens probably aren't going to expand in both axes. So I don't know. But
you could
somehow.
There's got to be a way to figure that out where you could just pull it.
Yeah, you pull it and then you rotate it and it becomes
Or you wear your VR headset and then you just work on a virtual 13-story tall screen.
All the time.
VR headset with foldable screens. So it's like it's this tiny thing, and then you unfold it in front of your eyes, and it's.
Thank you, Beatmaster. Gently pre-rolled for easy consumption.
See. Titles?
Yes, please.
Bend is the top one.
Will it bend?
Yes. Nice. It's going to be floppy. Ooh, what happened to your picture? It's going to be floppy phones. Connect the dots. Vibes about the Vive. No such letter. Bend it like Samsung.
You don't like Happy Beja, Sleepy Beja, purr?
Wait, where is that?
What?
Oh, I see that.
It's got 2 votes.
Purr. Do you have cats at home, Patrick?
No, I don't. But I purr myself. I had a couple myself. I had It's Not Me, It's Just Reality, which I thought was cool. All right, no reaction. The Valley of Bendable Screens. I think that's a poetic title.
Oh, yeah, because it's Project Valley. I like that.
How about Samsung folds and rolls over?
In a good way.
Yeah. Samsung folds and rolls over.
For any Transformers fans, Samsung droids roll out.
Roll out.
I like Will It Bend, actually. It's pretty...
You want to go with Will It Bend?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Let's do that. And that's perfect timing because I needed it right then. Will it bend? I don't know. And I have to remember to change. I'm putting all the host names in the ID3 tags, except for the days that I forget to change them. And then I have the wrong host names. Yeah. So I have to do that.
I don't know if it's Hangouts, but it's... Or Chrome or whatever, but every time I have a Hangout on, it feels like the computer stops to crawl. And actually, now
I think it's Hangouts. I have a question for both of you. Did you notice any of your streams kind of stutter a little bit?
Only Patrick's, not yours, Roger.
Because I noticed both of yours in between.
These are, it's fine.
Okay.
There's nothing we could do about it.
It's true.
Okay.
Except point it out and then make everybody else go, oh, yeah, I noticed that too, and now I'm less satisfied.
So Chrome is really not happy about something. I don't know what's happening, but it's...
Yeah, I had no problems getting Roger, though, which is weird.
Maybe Chrome.
No,
is
but
allergic
right
to
now
Hangouts.
Chrome is doing weird things.
It's just eating up all your processes.
It's It's like it's dividing every page, every web page. This is actually very strange. It's dividing every web page into tiles and choosing to display some of them and not others. So weird.
Oh, like it's only showing part of the page?
Yes.
We don't see your
But
video
in a
anymore
way that
either.
It came back for me.
Yeah. Oh,
Just
well,
kidding.
I don't see it anymore.
Oh wait, I don't see it when I see him in the little window, but I don't
Yeah,
see,
but that's just a still image.
Ah, I see what you're saying. Chrome
Yeah,
is trying to
Chrome is-
erase your presence from.
Dun, dun, dun.
I knew Google would try and
Okay.
get me someday.
Chrome was trying to update during the show on me. So that was,
Tinvec, thank you so much. Tinvec said exactly the reason that I don't end up getting too worked up about this stuff, because he said with other software.
I will say
It's
that
like-
I missed everything you just said because it just paused. It just hiccuped on me.
too.
Tinvec says, sadly, it doesn't get better with other software.
Oh,
And it doesn't.
Well, I've had better luck with Skype, honestly.
I haven't. I've had just as many
Oh.
problems with Skype. Like, I use Hangouts every day for almost 3 years now. I can tell you, I've had just as many problems with Skype.
Fine then. Okay, I have to relaunch Chrome now. This
All
is
right.
ridiculous.
Yeah, there's some
I'll be
Chrome
right.
browser weirdness.
what if this is one passive aggressive way someone at Google is trying to get back at management?
I don't think so. I think it's just, it's software. It's like doing a really complicated thing, and sometimes it just doesn't work very well.
Big.
Trying to figure out why a particular bug is happening on a particular day with software like this is a religious exercise.
Religious.
It's like, why does it rain sometimes?
Because
Let's you know, when people are like, oh, it's because of Google. Like, maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
you just got rid of everything after the second O and replaced it with D. That's your answer. It's just God. Just decided to make it that way. That's just the way it is.
There
Patrick
you
Beja's
go. That's
back.
better.
Oh, still no video from you.
No, he hasn't turned it on yet.
Uh,
Really? It was supposed to. It didn't
Oh.
turn on, but
I do
There
like
we
that
go.
still
Yeah.
image of
Now
you,
it's
though. Yeah, it's very much of the I'm the author of this book that you just bought.
well, maybe I am. How do you know I'm not?
Have you written a book recently?
Yeah, I don't know. Chrome, I mean, Hangouts seem to be incredibly resource intensive.
Well,
Of late.
the browser, yeah, Chrome, the browser is incredibly resource intensive, and then you put Hangout on top of it. It can be nightmarish.
Is it
But it-
better with other browsers?
I don't know. I've flipped back and forth. I've gone through periods where I had to use Safari for a long time, and then I went back. Then it had an issue, so I went back to Chrome, and it was fine.
I will say with Safari, and this is just what I've noticed. Initially, it uses the same level of resources as Chrome, but after 30 minutes, it goes down. And I'm not sure if that's just like it just figures out like, oh, it only really needs this.
Yeah, I like there's just all kinds of confirmation biases and correlation.
Magic.
Not,
I think
that's
it's just
not-
magic.
Yeah, I feel like it's magic. It's all magic.
Magic. Heresy. Magic cast. Anyway, is there a magic cast? I wonder.
That's one of the most frustrating things I have when dealing with trying to do tech support for other people is when they're like, yeah, but why is it doing that? And having to be like, no. There's all kinds of regular things you can try, and then that might make it go away. But it is, at this level, it's augury. It's,
Augury.
I think your first mistake is to do tech support for other people.
oh, I try not to, believe me.
When you have family members, though, it's
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
obligatory. There is no, oh, I want to opt out of it. I'm not going to tell my dad no. I would love to, but I can't.
I think those of us who work with technology regularly understand that it doesn't always act the same way, right? And it's really hard to get people to understand that, who are like, no, but when I start my car, it starts, and if it doesn't start, I take it to the mechanic. It's like, yeah, Sometimes with technology, you just, especially with software, you just got to restart.
See, but the mechanics kind of tell you the same thing. It's like, I don't know what's causing it. It's like it does weird things.
Well,
like,
sometimes, yeah, but I think sure you could, but I don't think it's exactly this. Like with software, it's kind of the only thing you can do sometimes is be like, I don't know. Whereas with
because
cars,
with a car, if you absolutely don't know what's happening, you might crash into a tree. So usually
there's that too. I just think it's, while it does happen with cars sometimes, I don't think the incidence is as high.
Yeah.
I'd like to see empirical data on that.
I would like to see that too.
Wait, so KV87 said, wait till our cars go self-driving. Oh, you just reboot the car.
Well, I find that one a little bit fatuous to be like, I don't want computers controlling my car, because guess what? That you missed that boat. That's already happening.
I'm not saying that I don't want a computer driving my car. I just better have the SSD in it so it boots up fast. If a car booted up, actually, I don't even want to go into it.
Yeah, better
Windows.
boot up fast.
Windows is pissing me off.
You're not going to use a desktop operating system in a self-driving car, though.
You might use a kernel. You might not use the rest of the OS.
Sure, but I'm just saying it's not going to be Windows 10 that's on same as on your desktop. I think a lot of people pretend that that's what's going to happen.
It'll be Windows Drive. Drive with your windows down.
It'll be Uber OS 4 or Google Drive 75. Then it'll be really bloated.
And then we'll just be back to driving AMC Gremlins. I would be totally fine with that. Those things move.
Can you still find AMC Gremlins on the road?
Yes. It is. It wasn't as popular as I thought it was, but because it's basically an AMC Hornet cut in half, pretty much all the spare parts you need you can find somewhere in a wrecking yard.
I like that's a guy. He wrote, "The pigeon's kidneys say it's clearly stack overflow due to a bad sector."
Yes.
All right. I am out of the post. We are published. You guys are the best. Thanks for watching.
No, you're the best.
Oh, goodbye, audience.